Welcome back to another video. My name is Abby. If this is your first time here and you want to learn more about how to reprogram your subconscious, heal your past, or more about self-awareness, make sure to hit the subscribe and bell notifications so you don't miss out on a thing. So what we're talking about today is how to live in the end. This is a huge Neville Goddard concept. I want to thank Larry for requesting this video on this topic, and I hope this information helps you guys out there. So first, what I want to do is explain what living in the end means according to Neville Goddard, and from there, take a look at how you can apply these concepts, where you might have barriers right now, and some questions that you can ask yourself to remove those barriers and start using this technique right now. Live in the end. How do you do that? Well, the end is where you begin, in the words of Neville Goddard. You have something that you desire, and then you believe that you already have it. You go through life and you act and you are that person as if that reality has already happened. You're already using this living in the end, but you might not be aware of what you are putting in your end. Is it all these years of day after day and you're just always be unsatisfied? Is it going to be with somebody you don't really love? Is it going to be always having to look at that dream vacation and wish and long that you could do it? You're living with the end right now, and all the circumstances in your life are reflecting that back to you. This technique heavily relies on imagination, which we'll get into more an extensive explanation later, but right now I want you to think about it. Everything in the world right now once was imagination. That is what this technique is asking you to do. Use your imagination, live in the end as if it's already happened. So think about it, this video idea, the screen you're watching on, whether it be a computer or a phone, if you're sitting in a chair, a couch, in your car, everything that is allowing you to hear my words right now once was just imagination. That imagination was pushed through into this 3D reality, but it started in somebody's imagination. Oftentimes what happens though is people downgrade that. They say, no, you know, Neville says there's the bridge of incident, which you take your imagination, you take this idea and it births through a bridge of incidents, which I'll do a video on later. But basically that place, that circumstance, that event in which something came from an idea and outside, you know, in an invisible realm, and it came into this visible, tangible realm, and they say that that is the cause, that is the reason that it exists. But think about it. Those things don't just come to be. Henry Ford in an automobile, right? He didn't just accidentally have wheels and have an engine and have all this stuff. He had it in his imagination. Everything that exists right now, computers, phones, they were in somebody's imagination. And yes, through that persistence of imagination, it was birthed through the bridge of incident, but the bridge of incident is not. That event is not the cause of bringing it into reality. The imagination, that spark, is what brought it into reality. So going all the way back and realizing the power of your imagination, persisted in, and starting with the end and living as if that end is already right now happening, is how you can use this technique to change your life. So a lot of times where people go wrong with this is they think, okay, I have this imagination, I have this dream, this goal, and you know, time's gonna go by and then I'm gonna start seeing things outside myself and it's gonna be great and it's gonna be wonderful. Well, in that way of thinking, you're hoping that outside something happens and it causes your life to change. It's not originating inside you. You still have the old ideas and the old end, right? So your idea is not coming true. You not having that person, you not having that job, you not having that career or body. If you're waiting for something outside of you to be the change, you are still in that old concept that your end does not involve that reality. You have to surrender, which I'll link above. I have a video on surrender and what that really means as opposed to letting go. I think surrender in this case is so much more powerful, because if you had a box in your hand and you saw another box that you really wanted, well, you could not hold the box, which we'll say is your old self-concept, the reality, the end that you do not get what you want, the reality that you will always be poor, you'll always be overweight, you'll never have that person that you really set your eyes on. You have to surrender, give that box away, release possession, in order to receive this new reality, in order to have a new end. They cannot coexist. You cannot entertain a new end and live in that while you are still in the old end. They are not together. They cannot coexist. Robert Frost had this beautiful way of saying it. It's a slight word variation, but it's incredibly powerful. So he said, don't believe in your future, believe your future in. Don't hope and wish, this thing that's outside of you, hoping and, really being needy. And also there's resistance in that. Like, I hope it's going to come. I hope it's going to happen. Well, you're creating that isn't happening. And every time you go forward, I always imagine as if you had, you were reaching for a cup, but there was a box in between you and that cup. And that box represents desire and longing. So as long as you push towards it, even though you're reaching and having an effort to get that glass, that cup, if that desire, that box is in the way, as you go forward, it's going to push that cup away. The more and faster and harder and more aggressive you do it, it keeps that distance, that separation in it always, because there's a longing. And when you are sending out signals that you long for it, that you don't have it now, you're going to get back a reflection that you do not have it now. That is how it works. Now, if you were to embody what it would be like to hold it, to feel it, how enjoyable that would feel, using all your senses that it's already happened, then you're going to get back a reflection that exists in your reality. So when you think about this, to believe your future in, this totally goes in alignment with live in the end. Believe that future in. Start being it. And really, it's going to illuminate from inside of you, from your imagination, and then you're going to see that reflected back to you. It's just like a mirror. If you're looking in a mirror right now and say you had something in your teeth, and you're like, oh man, I hope that mirror changes so that then I can change this thing on my tooth, or like that mirror is going to do something and then I'm going to feel really good. And that seems like a really ridiculous explanation, because it is, because you know that the mirror is just a reflection of you. So if you want that thing out of your tooth or off your face or whatever it is, you've got to get in there and do it. The mirror is just going to reflect what you're doing. That is the essence of reality. It is reflecting back to you who you are, not what you want, not what you wish life would be, but who you are right now. I love Neville Goddard that he takes the Bible, which, if you've grown up in a religious home, there could be a lot of resistance. I know for me personally, that was how it was, but he reinvents it and he puts it in a much different, more applicable sense. And he says, through God, all things are possible. The Word became flesh and dwelt within us. And in these cases, God and the Word of creative power, and God, he continually has talked and he taught about God being your imagination. You can fight with me, whatever it is, apply it to your life, that divine power, maybe of God, however you need to interpret it. But that is how powerful your imagination is. In these biblical verses, that the Word became flesh. Okay, the Word, your imagination became flesh. Living in the end with your imagination goes through, and even on a quantum physics level, right? Dr. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about this, that, rather than a space-time reality, he talks about a time-space reality, which really flips it, everything we know in a Newtonian viewpoint, on its head. And that in a 5D, right, in a quantum physics world, it does not work like that. There are, without getting into too much details, everything has potential, right? It's waves. And the only thing that brings that wave into a particle, which would be in this material world, is awareness, is focus. So when you're there and you're putting all that attention on that potential, you're going to bring that wave into a particle and bring it into the tangible world. That is how it works. It doesn't work outside of you and then magically you feel good, magically you feel whole, magically you feel the love and the unconditional support of this person. If you want that relationship, if you want that money, if you want whatever it is that you want right now, you must feel it first. One way to feel it is to imagine what it would exist like right now. Who would you need to be? What would the world look like if that was real? If that was it had already happened. So now that you understand basically exactly what living in the end is, let's look at some barriers that might be coming up in your life. Like, okay, I want to live in the end. Why is this not happening? So one thing you might be experiencing is you're like, okay, here I am. I'm going to live with the end with this specific person, with this amount of money, this financial abundance, with this career job, whatever it is. And then you don't see it outside yourself and you want to give up. Now, Neville asks, can you birth into your imagination a scene to be real and fulfilled even before it is? You're going to have to deny your reason or reason of others. They're going to tell you that that's not possible, and it could be something that you're telling yourself. That's not real. That can never work. And also too, you're going to have to deny your senses. You're going to have to think from a higher mind than this reality was created. So whatever it is that you're experiencing right now, that's come to you because of your consciousness level. You haven't thought that you're capable of having this relationship with this person. You might not have been thinking that you are worthy of having a job that makes that much money. That is not true. You have given consent and accepted it to be true. That you see yourself that way, absolutely. But now is a chance for you to redefine that, who you are. How do you see yourself? Those are barriers that are getting in the way of you living in the end, in your desired reality. Another great thing that I think that Neville hits on is, yes, we can all imagine, we can sit there, we can daydream. Now, what separates a daydream from living in the end? And that is feeling, that is conviction that that is going to happen. That has already happened, and you're moving through life as that new person, as that fulfillment has already been done. That wish has been granted. That reality is yours. How would you see the world? Who would you be? How would you act? And here's a great way to do this as well. How would your friends see you? Who would be reflected in their eyes? How would they talk about you? Because I love this because it's pushing it past you. You can sit in your head all day, you can have all these imaginations, you can do all these things, but when you involve somebody that you know, you're pushing that reality past yourself, and you're really gonna have to use your senses, which is going to bring this into your reality. How would you see your world if that desire was already done? If you got that amount of money and you looked in your bank account and you had $100,000, or you looked over, you woke up and that person that you love, that you want to be with, they were next to you. Everything was great, and you have that dream job, and you get to travel wherever you want. What would the world be like in that situation? Now, this is interesting because even on a scientific level, think of how this is going to change your RAS, your reticular activating system, which is the filtration system in your head. It's in the back of your head. Does a lot of other things, but specifically for this, we take in so many bits of information, and we can't possibly process that in our conscious brain. So our subconscious is taking in. We can only process a small percentage of that comes into our conscious brain. So we're not seeing everything that's out there. We're not seeing all these possibilities and potentials. We're only seeing what we're allowing ourselves permission to see. So if it's being rejected, right? You might have a history of, maybe your mom or your dad or somebody significant rejected you when you were a kid. You could have an emotional addiction. And that is a thing. If you look at Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, we are ruled. You could say subconscious beliefs. They are reinforced by our chemical addiction. Every time you think a thought, your body releases a chemical. And so if you're constantly thinking, oh, that's not going to work out. This person's they will never love me. I'll never be able to get this person. And then they do reject you, and you come from a history of rejection. Your formative years, you were rejected, you were ignored, you were abandoned. Well, your body is literally going to be used to the chemicals of rejection flowing through your body. And just like somebody who is on a drug, right? They're looking for that next hit. You are addicted. You could be addicted. We all have some sort of chemical addiction to thought. thoughts to those feelings that those thoughts produce. And that is how we feel a little bit more alive. Now, granted, this can go a very, very toxic and destructive way. It can also be very beneficial and very, very powerful for your life. But if you are looking with your RAS for those things in the world, and then you shift of like, okay, well, now I have this money. Okay, now I have this person. Now I have this career. Now it completely contradicts those earlier beliefs that I had. And who am I now? What feelings am I going to feel? Your RAS will automatically have to switch, and you'll start seeing new things. Again, a great example of this is cars. When you start looking at a new car, you see that car everywhere. Maybe your friend gets a new car. You get a new pair of shoes, whatever it is. You become aware. It was always there. You just did not see. We never see with our eyes. We always see with our brain. So going off of this is the idea of yourself. How do you see yourself? Who is it that you are giving yourself permission to be? And that can apply in a lot of different ways. That could be a very limited belief. And we go back to the examples of when you were little. Did somebody tell you that you're not worth anything? You can look at this and say, okay, remember that whatever you're harvesting in your life right now, whether it be lack, whether it be scarcity, whether it be a lack of romantic in relationships, whatever it is, realize this is a very powerful acceptance that you are responsible for that. You planted those seeds on the harvest you're getting. It can be discouraging. It can be heartbreaking. There can be moments of grief because you realize how much you've been hurting yourself. On the other side of that coin is the ability and awareness that you can now take that power and create a new life for yourself. A life that is going to echo what you really believe and what you want to experience in this life. So one way to get into what it is that you see about yourself is, okay, look in your life right now. If it's a lack of money, what would somebody need to assume about their life? What would their end look like in order for them to see that? If it's always being, a couple $100s short, or maybe, having a big credit card debt, what would that person assume? Maybe it's that they're not worthy of getting a job that pays a lot of money or an amount of money to pay all their bills. Maybe it's they don't have skills. They don't see themselves as highly skilled. So the money reflects back the skill level, the value that you see in yourself. So those are ways to get to the root of what you really believe and start unraveling that, because it's not true. You've got to re-reason on the past. You've got to go back and dig up those skeletons, because they do have power over your life right now. Even though they happened 20, 30, 40 years ago, unless you've healed them, you uncharge that emotionally and you start thinking with who you want to be rather than who you were told to be or what the circumstances in your life tell you can be, you will never have the freedom to really live with the end that you choose. You'll always be limited by what you think you have to be. A really great question to ask, do you believe anything is possible? Do you believe you are capable of anything? Ask yourself that right now. If the answer is no, or there's some discomfort, look into that. What does it say? Oh, no one will ever believe you. No one's gonna listen to you. What do you have? When's the first time you heard that? Did you hear that by a parent, a teacher? Was there a specific event that happened in your life that has taught you that this is true of you? Because those beliefs are limiting your ability to believe in your future, limiting your ability to live in the end that you wish, to start with the end that you desire. They're limiting you, and they're not true. A belief, all it is a conviction of acceptance without proof. So you can easily change your beliefs to either one. You're already using this living in the end, but you might not be aware of what you are putting in your end. Is it all these years of day after day and you're just always be unsatisfied? Is it gonna be with somebody you don't really love? Is it gonna be always having to look at that dream vacation and wish and long that you could do it? You're living with the end right now, and all the circumstances in your life are reflecting that back to you. I'm asking you right now to make a decision to change that, to become aware of the power of the seeds that you've planted that are harvesting in the circumstances in your life right now. Yes, you might not like them, and that's okay. Realize that you are the person, or you've perpetuated, you've allowed them to continue to be there, and now you get to choose and you get to make a difference about them. No matter what, there's only one creator, your imagination. You can imagine the worst possible context of everything and constantly find yourself in the worst situation, or you can start dreaming of the life that you want. Why not you? There are tons of people in the world right now where their dreams are coming true. Their desired realities are better than they could have imagined. Why not you? Why not every person in this world? The first thing you have to do is become aware of what you have been planting in the seeds. What end do you have in your mind right now? In the words of Robert Frost, believe your future in. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Again, hit the subscribe if you want to be kept up to date. Like this video, it's going to help spread that message, and I will see you on the next one.